This engagement has been a long-standing one. It is something that we've been yearning for a very long time. And thank God that you've paved the way for us today to have this engagement. Thank you so much on behalf of the Ghana Journalists Association. I have two simple questions to ask you, Your Excellency. What is your commitment to media freedom? And how would you urge your supporters to refrain from attacking journalists, especially during electioneering, as we are in some few months to go? And also, how will you deal with your supporters who act in such a manner? The second question, Your Excellency, the media industry is currently facing serious financial distress. Some media houses are folding up, and there are hints of imminent sale of state-owned media. What are your thoughts on selling the state-owned media, and how would you help the media industry to overcome the financial distress if you are elected as president? Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you. So only the GJA gets to ask two questions, please. Gordon. We'll take about 6 questions, then His Excellency would respond, then we'll come to you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'll keep my question short as myself. Your Excellency, former President Mahama says you were supposed to be an economic messiah, but you seem to have failed in the management of the economy. Do you have any response?
Okay. In Sempera, I see at least we get Eastern region. So we'll keep moving.
Thank you, His Excellency. My name is Nsempera Emmanuel Mate, and I work with Afima FM in Nkoforidia, the Eastern Regional Capital. My question is very simple and short. Is there anything you have disagreed with in this government as a Vice President? Thank you.
Eugene, from Ashanti region, Insura FM.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. My name is Eugene Osetutu. I work at Love FM in Kumasi, subsidiary of the Multimedia Group. Listening to you last Sunday and also reading your manifesto, and you're giving us an abridged version. When you go to the page 23 and 24, you are tackling the rising cost of living basically on 4 legs. Food, then you talk about transportation, you talk about housing, and also electricity. Now on transportation, your solution is bringing in, one of your solutions is bringing in electric vehicles for public transport. And last Sunday, you did indicate that you're expecting about 100 of them before December. I have 3 questions on that. We know EV vehicles are mostly charged. They have public charging systems that we use to, power these buses to ply our roads. When you check the Energy Commission website as of this evening, we have only 5 public charging ports in the country, 5. And 2 of them are actually for Porsche cars specifically. Then 1 at the Total Energy Station at the Liberation Road. So between now and December, where are we building the charging port? Is it government building it, or the source of fund? Is it the private sector, or is it PPP? So that's my question 1.
Thank you. You have.
Then question 2.
You have.
No, under it. I'm not done.
No, is it directly related to EV?
Yes, it's the EV. Yes,
let's refer to the others and make it short.
Okay, so still on the EV, we know that most of these charging ports for green mobility innovations, they must be powered with green energy. So are we already adding on to our energy mix, which is the brown, making it counterproductive, or we build dedicated solar panels for these charging ports? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think we'll go to this side before we come back. So Wilberforce, don't worry, we'll keep moving to every row.
Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Vice President, so throughout your campaign, I have noticed that you've been talking about job creation and support for businesses. I've also taken the pain to read all the 260-page manifesto that you launched a week ago. And I see that the golden thread in that manifesto is also the creation of jobs. But the young people in Ghana are asking, really, where would they find themselves in that manifesto? How are you going to create jobs for the young people of this country? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilberforce. I think at this point, His Excellency will take the questions and then we'll come back. We don't have the chance. Your Excellency, 6 questions.
Thank you very, very much. I think those are pretty tough questions. The first question by the Vice President of the GJA was on commitment to media freedom. And I think that commitment is very absolute. I think the press and people have fought and have lost their lives even to get press freedom or media freedom in this country. A lot of the times we take it for granted, but I think that media freedom and is so pivotal to the whole democratic exercise that we are embarked on. If you don't have media freedom, you'll have a difficulty. I mean, the lack of media freedom is a characteristic of societies which are more dictatorial. And I think one of the things about Ghana that everybody who comes here really appreciates is the freedom of the media. We talk a lot on radio, TV all day. And so I'm very committed to this because I'm inherently someone who is very committed to democracy. And I don't think that anyone should attack a member of the press for doing their job. And so we will totally be against that and ask all our supporters to refrain absolutely from doing that, because that undermines the very democracy that we are doing, So I think that one is clear. The issue of Sterling state-owned media, I am not aware that anything of that nature has come to cabinet, but should it come, there has to be a justification for it. We'll await any such thing that will come. I'm not aware that there's a proposal to sell the state-owned media. But if it comes, it has to be justified, and of course, a big decision like that will have to be undertaken with a lot of consultation of stakeholders. The third question, third question is about what the former president supposed to have said about me being an economic messiah, supposedly, who has failed. Sometimes I get a little surprised and amazed the former president when he talks about economic mismanagement, because he should know his own record. I mean, we don't all have short memories. We really don't all have short memories. His record in economic management, what he left us with in 2016 was an abysmal record. It's just an abysmal record. We had endured doomsor for 4 years with all the destruction of industry and livelihoods that happened. People died because of doomsor in hospitals. The National Health Service was virtually collapsed. Remember, we are basically back to a cash and carry system. The National Ambulance Service was virtually dead. We had maybe about 37 ambulances for the whole country. Unemployment as a result was very high. Agriculture, GDP growth had declined to 3.4%. 3.4%. Agricultural growth had declined to 2.9%. And of course, industry growth had collapsed because of doomsday. Unemployment was high. There was a freeze on public recruitment as a result. And the banking sector was on the verge of collapse. We had, as a result, the cancellation of teacher training allowances, the cancellation of nursing training allowances. You had a 3-month pay policy for teachers, could work for 3 years and be paid. And many children could not attend senior high school because of difficulties of paying fees and so on. You had many, many challenges that he left us with. So when you juxtapose that record with what we have been able to do in these last 8 years almost, it's really night and day. We have created at least 2.1 million jobs. The latest number I saw was 2.3 million, but let's say at least 2.1 million jobs in the last 7 years. And this is hard data I'm talking about, 2.1 million jobs. We've kept the public sector workers employed and fully paid through the COVID pandemic. We didn't lay anybody off. And if you look at it, we've built more roads, 3 times more the length of roads than what he did in office. We've built more railway than any other government in the Fourth Republic. Expanded rural telephony. There were 78 sites for rural telephony when we came in. Today there are 1,008 sites for rural telephony. We built more libraries, public libraries, than any other government. His time, he built only 8 years, 3 public libraries, 8 years. And we've built 54 public libraries in 8 years. We've constructed about 12 major fish landing sites across the country. Zim, Dix Cove, Moree, Mumford, Winneba, Senyabreko, Gomoa, Fete, Teshi, Osu, Ikumfi, and Mfasima. Constructed 2 fishing harbors in Elmina and Jamestown. Constructed more sanitation facilities, 817, than any other government in the Fourth Republic. This has increased the proportion of the population with access to toilet facilities from 33% in 2016 to 80%. And 5,400 communities have been declared open defecation free. We've built more sports facilities in Ghana than any other government in the Fourth Republic. Whether you're talking about Boteman or the University of Ghana and so on. When we came into office, there were only 3 astroturfs in the whole of Ghana. The whole of Ghana, 3. Today you have over 150. We've abolished the 3-month pay policy, constructed 120 courts we're constructing, 80 have been completed with bungalows, and we've kept the lights on broadly in the last 8 years. We've restored teacher and nursing training allowances. We've increased the beneficiaries of scholarships by 70%. And the national health insurance is now being extended to cover sickle cell patients with hydroxyurea, very expensive drug, but I led the negotiations for that to happen. We have extended the national health insurance to cover childhood cancer, extended the national health insurance to cover kidney dialysis for over 60s and under 18s. We saved the deposits of 4.6 million bank depositors who really were going to lose their deposits if those banks were not saved. I don't understand whether the former president has taken his time to actually understand what happened in the banking sector. Some atrocious things happened. And this is why these banks had to be saved. They were not collapsed, they were merged into other banks. And no banking depositor lost 1 cedi. Everybody maintained. But you had very bad things happening. Some of the banks broke all the rules and extended loans way above the single obligor limits. They were given, in some cases, 1 billion cedis by the Bank of Ghana to help them get out of the mess. And they only got deeper into the mess. Another bank was giving capital to save the situation, was giving money from the Bank of Ghana's lender of last resort facility. And they used that money to go and set up Capital Bank instead of rescuing the problem that they had. They took the money from the central bank and went to set up another bank, which was also collapsed. Some took money and went and invested in private property. So it was against this background when the governor came to report, and this was one of my nightmares as in the last 8 years. I couldn't sleep that night, that the banking system, most people didn't understand how close we were to a collapse of the entire banking system, but we were this close because all it would have taken was for a few depositors to go to UT Bank or UMT and they'll tell you there's no money. What would happen? There would have been a complete run on the banking system in Ghana. We would have collapsed the banking system. When the governor came to report that we were on the verge of collapse, decisions had to be taken to save the banking system and to save depositors. And this is how come we had to merge many of these banks into other banks. And we saved 4.6 million depositors. I'll ask the former president, if he hasn't read, to go and read the receiver's report, or to go and read the Bank of Ghana report, and acquaint himself before making any further comments on matters he clearly does not understand. He needs to get an understanding before you make comments. And you cannot hand over a bank's license to them. This is subject to legal procedure. You have to go to court. You don't have the power in our constitution to do that. And I'm surprised sometimes because he has been president before and he should know these things. He should know these things. He should know these things. Ladies and gentlemen, we have tripled the capitation grant per child since we came into office, from 5 cedis to 15 cedis. And what is interesting also is that we've had the lowest increase in electricity tariffs in recent history. Between his time, 2009, and 2016, when they were in office, the average annual increase in electricity tariffs was 50% a year. That's the average. Some of the years were 80%. Between 2009 and 2016, 50% average a year. In the last 8 years, the average increase in electricity prices has been 11.1%. This is the lowest average increase of any government since 1992. Any government since 1992. When we came in our first term, we abolished and reduced 21 separate taxes. And we reduced import duties by 50% between 2019 and 2021. 50% reduction in import duties. And that, of course, we had to go back on that when we got into the crisis. We introduced the National Rental Assistance Scheme to help to deal with this problem of rent advance. And it is one of the best schemes that we have seen. It has worked very well, and we are going to expand it for the rest of the country. We're going to put in serious money, because with that, you don't need to pay 2 years rent advance. You will pay the landlord, and you just pay monthly, and it's working, and then, of course, working with the private sector. Infant mortality under our government has come down from 37.9 in 2016 to 31.7. And in terms of LEAP, Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, we have increased payments almost tenfold, from 49 million that we used to pay every year to 423 million LEAP payments. Now, National Health Insurance, NHIS expenditure has also gone up from 1.1 billion to 6.8 billion. During COVID, we had free water for everybody for a year, and free electricity for Lifeline consumers, and all of that. We brought in over 4 million beneficiaries now under school feeding, up from 1.6 million. We've absorbed the examination fees for all students of BCA and WACSI. People were sacked from examination centers for not paying examination fees before we came into office. We've doubled the number of student loan recipients from 30,000 to 58,000, almost double. We've also, of course, introduced mobile money interoperability to make almost every adult Ghanaian have a bank account through the Momo's account interoperability with the bank account. In fact, the whole of Africa, Ghana is the only country with 100% access to financial inclusion. 100%. The whole of Africa. Ghana is the only country with 100% access to financial inclusion. What is interesting is that when I first made a statement and I said Ghana was the first country in Africa to have mobile money interoperability between banks and Momo accounts, some people decided to fact check me. And they said that I was wrong. Just that they didn't understand the terrain, the fact checkers. So I took my time to explain to the fact checkers exactly what was happening in the field. Unfortunately, once they understood it, they didn't come back to withdraw. They just kept quiet. You know, today, when chalk was a problem, remember, chalk in our schools under the former president, when it was a problem. Today we have acquired tablets to give to the students. Every senior high school student is getting a tablet that we are having. So I'm just putting some of these points together. You know, Agenda 111, so far we've built 47 hospitals, 428 CHIPS compounds, 230 health centers. I mean, that is massive. That's excluding Agenda 111. We've brought in drone delivery, and Ghana is now the whole world's, the largest medical drone delivery service in the whole world. We're leading the world. The ambulance service, which was collapsing, we've brought in one constituency, one ambulance, and we are making a lot of progress in that direction. So I think that, I mean, what is clear, I don't have to go through every sector. The data, for me, I speak only with data. The data is very, very clear that we have, our government, we have outperformed the government of former President Mahama in the management of the economy in virtually every sector. Virtually every sector. You tell me whether it's GDP growth, whether it's per capita income, whether it is industry growth. I mean, virtually every sector we have outperformed him. So he either does not read or he does not understand the data. He needs to do one of the two. Take his time to read the data and understand what it is before he comes out to speak, because he will speak out of ignorance. Because if you understand the data, and I believe that as a former president, he does understand the data. He must understand the data. And I believe that is why he doesn't want to debate me. I believe so. That is why he doesn't want to debate me. He's running away from that. So if, according to him, we have mismanaged the economy in the midst of a global crisis, if our mismanaged economy is outperforming you in virtually every sector, this economy that you are saying has been mismanaged. We are performing you in GDP growth, in per capita income, in gross international reserves, in every sector, roads, hospitals, schools, everything. Free SHS, all of that. If this is the mismanaged economy that is outperforming you in your economy that had no global crisis, no crisis at all, but you couldn't afford chalk. You couldn't afford chalk, but there was no crisis. So if our mismanaged economy is performing better than your better managed economy, then in that case, you must not have been very good. Let me put it mildly. I was going to say incompetent. Because our bad economy it's much better than your good economy. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So I think that the matter, I hope that this matter can be settled. There's no way he can say that his economy that he managed as president, by the way, I'm not yet president, in another 3 months, inshallah. Yeah, I mean, let us settle this matter. And you are members of the press. You read the data. You follow the data. You know the data. You know that we have done better than him. So why does he want to come back? I mean, it's like you go for an exam with someone in school. You score 70%, they score 30%, and they want to convince people that they are better than you. It doesn't make sense in that sense. So I seriously believe that statement, that we have failed. Of course, we've had challenges. Nobody can say we haven't had challenges. We have had challenges. Serious challenges that have kept me up at night. In 2022, that was the horrible year for us, 2022. Petrol prices went up to 23 cedis per liter. We were losing reserves so badly, and you saw food prices going up and all of that. That was a real challenge that we had to deal with. This is how we came up with the whole gold for oil, gold purchase program, and that has really helped us. Today, Ghana, notwithstanding all the challenges, we are the 10th lowest priced in terms of petroleum in Africa, the whole of Africa. Ghana is number 10 in those of lowest prices of petroleum products. We are number 10. 10th lowest. The lowest is Libya. Then you move through Egypt and Sudan and all of those to come to number 10, which is Ghana. Ghana, we are priced around 13, 14 cedis per liter right now. Cote d'Ivoire is priced 23 cedis per liter, as Hassan was just telling me earlier on when I asked. 10th lowest. We still want to bring it lower. But in 2022, at the time I announced the Gold for Oil program, when I said we had to attack this thing with gold for oil, the prices were 23 cedis per liter at that time. So we've had challenges. It's not, everything is not where we want it to be, but I believe that we can work better. But I don't think the former president can lecture us on economic management. He just cannot. His record would not allow him to lecture us on economic management. Is there anything you have disagreed with in this government? The issue when you sit in cabinet, you have collective responsibility. That is fundamental to governance. When we sit in cabinet, we argue on many, many issues, and everybody brings their mind. And sometimes your view prevails, sometimes it doesn't prevail. But once we take a decision, it is a collective decision. And so I cannot come out and say that the decision that we collectively took, I disagree with. No, I'm bound by it. That is the nature of cabinet responsibility.